Oh, honey, sit a spell right here on this weathered porch swing with me, the kind that sways gentle like a cradle under the big old maple tree. It's dusk, settling and soft over the fields of Millford, Ohio, where I've lived my 83 years, feeling every bit of them in my aching joints. But don't you fret, my voice still carries the warmth of summer nights and fresh-baked apple pie. I can see it in your eyes. You're wondering why an old gal like me's calling you over with such a heavy heart. Well, pull up a chair, because I'm fixing to spill a story that's been buried deeper than Grandpa's war trunk in the attic. It ain't all sunshine and fireflies, no siree. It starts with a hurt that ripped me clean into a loss so raw, it still wakes me sweating in the wee hours, whispering prayers to the empty room. Picture this. It was the sticky heat of summer 1972, the kind where the air hangs thick and the cicadas scream like they're hollering for mercy. My boy Tommy just turned 21, that spring full of that wildfire young folks got, with the shaggy hair and dreams of building his own garage someday, fixing up beat up Chevys like his daddy taught him. We'd scrape through those Vietnam years with our hearts in our throats. Tommy enlisted straight out of high school thinking it was his duty, like the fellas in the old newsreels from World War II. Mama, he said, hugging me fierce at the bus station, I'll be back before you know it, with stories that'll make your eyes pop. I nodded through my tears, waving that silly handkerchief till the bus was a speck on the horizon, but deep down, I knew them jungles over there, they swallowed boys whole and spit out nothing but shadows. Picture this, it was the sticky heat of summer 1972, the kind where the air hangs thick and the cicadas scream like they're hollering for mercy. My boy Tommy just turned 21, that spring full of that wildfire young folks got, with his shaggy hair and dreams of building his own garage someday, fixing up beat up Chevys like his daddy taught him. We'd scrape through those Vietnam years with our hearts in our throats, Tommy enlisting straight out of high school thinking it was his duty, like the fellas in the old newsreels from World War II. Mama, he said, hugging me fierce at the bus station, I'll be back before you know it, with stories that'll make your eyes pop. I nodded through my tears, waving that silly handkerchief till the bus was a speck on the horizon. But deep down, I knew them jungles over there, they swallowed boys whole and spit out nothing but shadows. The days dragged after that, letters coming sporadic with a scrawl telling me about the mud, the heat, the buddies he swore by like brothers. The child's lousy mama, but thinking of your cornbread keeps me going. He'd write, and I'd send packages stuffed with socks, jerky, and that lucky penny he swore brought him home from Little League games. Jimmy, my husband, he'd pace the kitchen muttering about how that war was a politician's fool game, tearing families apart just like Korea had chewed them up years before. We clung to the radio, listening to Walter Cronkite's grave voice, counting the dead, each night my stomach twisting tighter than a wrung-out dish rag. Then one muggy July morning, a knock at the door, sharper than a shotgun blast, two fellas in crisp uniforms standing there, hats in hand, their faces carved from stone. I knew before they spoke, honey, I just knew. Mrs. Harlan, the taller one, said, his voice flat as Kansas, we regret to inform you your son Thomas was killed in action near the DMZ. The words hit like a freight train slamming through my chest. I staggered back, grabbing the door frame, my knees buckling under me like wet noodles. The world tilted all fuzzy, and I hit the floor wailing a sound so guttural it scared the cat from under the stove. Jimmy rushed in from the barn, found me there, crumpled telegram fluttering like a dead leaf, and he froze, eyes going blank as he read it over and over. No tears from him, not then, just a quiet crumpling as he sank beside me, pulling me close, his rough hands shaking on my shoulders. Our boy Ellie, our only boy, he whispered, and that's when the flood came, both of us sobbing till our throats were raw, the kitchen echoing with a grief so thick you could cut it with a knife. That day, Milford stopped breathing for his neighbors bringing pies and prayers, but it all blurred into nothing. I'd stare at Tommy's empty chair at the supper table, see his grin in the steam rising from my coffee, his laugh in the wind rustling the curtains. Secrets started bubbling up, two things I'd buried deep, like the letter he sent months before hinting at a girl in Saigon, someone who made him question the whole dang war, a forbidden spark that could have changed everything if fate hadn't snatched him away. But honey, that's just the hook. The sharp ache that pulls you into my world of joys turned to ashes and secrets, clawing to get free. Stick with me now through the sunny patches of my girlhood, the storms that followed, and how this old heart found its way to healing again, because life's too precious not to share these tales, especially in times like these when we all need a reminder that resilience is woven right into the American soul. Just like the stars on our flag, y'all. Hold on tight, the best parts are coming if you got the grit to hear them out. Born in the thick of World War II, right here in Millford, Ohio, a tiny dot on the map where the fields roll golden under the sun and the river winds lazy like it ain't got a care in the world. It was 1942 and the whole country was buzzing with that wartime hustle. My folks telling stories of how the news crackled over the radio about Pearl Harbor and how folks rolled up their sleeves to fight back. I came into this world hollering loud as a steam whistle, Mama said, weighing a solid 8 pounds with a tuft of red hair that made Daddy chuckle, calling me his little firecracker from the get-go. We lived in a white clapboard house on Elm Street, the kind with a wraparound porch and a pump out back for water. No indoor plumbing yet, but who needed it when the stars shone bright and neighbors dropped by with fresh eggs or a jug of cider? Life back then was simple as a Sunday hymn, honey. No televisions or fancy gadgets, just the rhythm of the seasons and family holding you tight. Daddy worked long hours at the mill cranking out parts for them tanks and planes heading overseas, his hands calloused black from the grease, but he'd always come home with a smile and a pocket full of licorice for me. Mama ruled the kitchen with an iron apron, preserving tomatoes and beans in mason jars to send to the soldiers, she said. It kept the boys' bellies full and our spirits high. I was little Ellie Mae scampering around in handmade dresses hemmed from flour sacks, my bare feet kicking up dust on the dirt road as I chased after the neighbor kids playing cowboys and Indians or hiding in the hayloft pretending to be secret agents spying on the Jerrys. Rationing was just part of the game. We kids turned it into a contest, seeing who could stretch the sugar stamps farthest or trade butter coupons for extra gasoline tags. I'd help Mama in the victory garden hoeing rows of carrots and corn, feeling proud as punch when we'd harvest enough to share with old Mrs. Wilkins next door, whose boy was off in the Pacific. Sundays was sacred church in the morning with Reverend Hayes preaching fire and brimstone, then the picnic spread under the oaks, fried chicken potato salad with hard-boiled eggs from our hens and apple cobbler still warm from the oven. We'd sing God Bless America, voices rising like the church steeple, and I'd sneak peeks at the boys in their starched shirts, wondering what adventures lay beyond our little town. But even in that innocent time, war's shadow crept in cold and uninvited. I was barely 5 when Uncle Ray, Daddy's big brother, shipped out to Europe, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder as he kissed Mama goodbye, hugging me so tight I could smell the tobacco on his wool coat. "Be good for your folks, Ellie Bug," he said, ruffling my hair, "and save me a slice of that birthday cake next year." Letters came regular at first, full of jokes about French girls and army chow, but then they trickled off like a drying creek bed. We'd gather round the dinner table, Mama reading his words aloud, her voice steady but eyes misty, while Daddy nodded, quiet like knowing the score. Then one crisp fall day in '44, a telegram boy bicycled up the path, his face pale as milk. I ran out thinking it was candy or a note from Ray, but Mama snatched it quick, her hand trembling as she tore it open. The room went still as a graveyard, honey, her face crumpling like wet paper as she whispered, "Ray's gone KIA in France." Daddy just stared at the wall, his pipe forgotten in his lap, and I hid behind the sofa, not understanding, but feeling the ache settle deep in my chest like a stone. The town mourned with us, black armbands on sleeves and a gold star hanging in our window, shining for all to see. Mama took to baking extra loaves for the Red Cross, her way of fighting back, while Daddy worked double shifts, muttering about making those Nazis pay. Me, I drew pictures of airplanes dropping bombs on the bad guys' crayons scattered across the kitchen floor, dreaming of the day the war would end and Uncle Ray would walk through that door laughing his big laugh. But he never did, and that loss carved the first real scar on my young heart, teaching me early that life could snatch away the light in a heartbeat. Still, we carried on because that's what folks did in those days, pulled together like threads in a quilt, mending the tears with hope and hard work. By '45, the news turned good D-Day victories and flags waving wild VE Day, had the whole town dancing in the streets, horns honking and strangers hugging like long-lost kin. I was 3 feet tall in my Sunday best jumping rope with the other girls singing "The war is won, hurrah, hurrah," while Mama cried happy tears mixing with the rain. Then Japan surrendered, and the boys started coming home limping or whole but alive, filling the trains with cheers that echoed clear to Millford. Daddy got a raise at the mill, and we splurged on a new Radio 1 with shiny knobs that picked up big band music from Cleveland. Life bloomed again like spring after a long winter. School started for me in a one-room building where Miss Harper taught us reading, writing, and arithmetic, her ruler raps keeping us in line. Growing up in post-war Millford was pure magic, honey. The 50s rolling in with shiny cars and soda fountains downtown. I turned into a gangly teenager, All knees and elbows joining the 4-H club raising a prize pig named Bessie who won blue ribbon at the county fair. Summers meant swimming in the creek cannonballing off the rope swing and eating watermelon till our chins dripped red. Winters brought sledding down Haskins Hill, building snow forts and roasting chestnuts over the stove. Mama taught me to sew patching quilts from feed sacks, each square telling a story of hand-me-downs and handshakes. Daddy'd take me fishing at dawn, his line casting graceful as he spun yarns about his pa who homesteaded these lands back when Ohio was wild frontier. That's when I met Jimmy, my first real beau, at the sock hop in the gym. All polished wood floors, and Elvis records scratching on the turntable. He was 16 tall and freckled with eyes blue, as Lake Erie asking me to dance the hound dog, his hands sweaty but sure on mine. We twirled clumsy at first, then smooth as silk laughing till our sides hurt. After that, it was stolen moments behind the bleachers showering root beer floats and whispers about running off to the city lights. Ellie Mae, he'd say, leaning close, "You're the prettiest thing this side of the Mississippi, gonna make you my girl forever." I blushed fiercer than a sunset, believing every word, heart fluttering like a trapped bird. We carved our initials in the old oak by the river, J&E forever linked, and I'd daydream in class about white dresses and picket fences, our life stretching endless as the corn rose. But even in that sweet haze, trouble brewed subtle as summer storm clouds. Jimmy's family struggled after the war, his pa losing the farm to debts and taking mill work that wore him thin. We'd sneak to the drive-in watching James Dean flicks in the back of his daddy's truck, popcorn kernels sticking to our laps. One night under the stars, he opened up about his older brother off in Korea coming home in a box just like Uncle Ray, the pain fresh as yesterday. "Don't want that for us, Ellie," he said, voice cracking. "Want to build something solid. No wars tearing it down." I squeezed his hand, promising we'd weather whatever came, holding each other tighter than before. Little did I know those words would test us fierce in the years ahead. School flew by, graduating in '59 with a diploma clutched in my sweaty palm and Jimmy waiting at the curb in his Letterman jacket. We married that summer in the little chapel on Main Street, me and Mama's lace gown, him in a borrowed suit. The whole town turning out with cake and confetti. "I do," we said, eyes locked, dreaming of babies and barbecues, a house full of laughter. Tommy came first, our miracle boy, born screaming in '60 with Jimmy's grin and my red hair chazzing after bottle caps before he could walk. Life settled into a cozy groove, Jimmy wrenching at the garage grease under his nails, but pride in his step, me keeping house and sewing for extra cash. We'd picnic by the river Sunday, spreading checkered blankets with fried chicken and lemonade, watching Tommy splash in the shallows, his giggles mixing with the water's song. Yet under that bliss secret simmered ones, we didn't speak aloud. Jimmy carried ghosts from his brother's death, drinking more than he should on Fridays, unwinding with beers from the cooler. I'd catch him staring at the horizon, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share, and I'd hum lullabies to Tommy, pretending all was right. Then came the whispers of bigger changes, the '60s stirring with rock and roll and civil rights marches flickering on our new TV set. Millford stayed sleepy, but the world knocked insistent, reminding us innocence couldn't last forever. Tommy grew toddling into a boy full of questions, why the flag flew half-mast, or why Daddy's eyes darkened at war news on the dial. We'd answer soft as we could, shielding him from the storms brewing, but deep down I felt the pull of what was coming, a tide that sweep us into deeper waters. Oh, that night the rain hammered the roof like angry fists, thunder rolling, close enough to shake the windows. Tommy was tucked in, dreaming innocent, while Jimmy bolted up in bed, sweat-soaked and yelling, Incoming, get down, his fist swinging the shadows. I grabbed him round the waist, pulling him back. "Jimmy, it's me, Ellie. You're home safe." My voice steady through the fear. He collapsed against me, sobbing deep, ragged breaths that tore at my soul. The dreams, Ellie, the mud, the screams from Korea, they won't let go. That's when the secret spilled raw and unfiltered, how the shrapnel in his leg ached eternal, and the doc's pills became his crutch, sneaking him to numb the nights he couldn't face. "I ain't worthy of you or the boy," he choked out, eyes hollow as forgotten wells, but I cupped his face fierce. "Hush, now we face it together like Americans do, piecing back from the breaks, 'cause love's tougher than any battlefield." We held on till dawn, the storm passing, leaving us closer forged in that fire, a promise to fight the inner wars side by side. Honey, that moment tested us, but it built a stronger show, and even in the shadows, light finds a way through. The years blurred after that into a tapestry of small joys and quiet worries. Tommy started school tying his shoes crooked and bringing home drawings of fire trucks, his imagination running wild as the wind. Jimmy cut back on the drink, throwing himself into the garage, saving for a bigger house, maybe one with a yard for Tommy to roam. I joined the ladies' auxiliary sewing blankets for orphanage kids, feeling part of something bigger than our four walls. Christmases sparkled with tinsel on the tree and carols round the piano, Jimmy's baritone booming Silent Night, while Tommy unwrapped his toy soldier set, eyes wide as saucers. Summers we'd load up the old Plymouth for trips to the lake, packing bologna sandwiches and swimsuits, fishing for bass till the sun dipped low, painting the water gold. But the 60s brought winds of change whistling through Millford like a prairie gale. The Beatles hit the airwaves, twisting our hips at sock hops, and girls like me traded poodle skirts for mod dresses. News from down south showed marches and fire hoses turning on folks fighting for rights, and I'd watch with a mix of awe and unease, wondering if justice could ripple to our quiet corners. Jimmy grumbled about the hippies, but Tommy soaked it up, asking why we couldn't all just get along. Then Vietnam loomed dark on the horizon, draft lotteries, making every young man's number a potential ticket to hell. We'd pray over supper, Jimmy's hand tight on mine, keep our boy safe, Lord, and I'd nod, swallowing the fear that clawed my gut. Sarah came along in 65, a surprise girl with curls like mine and a giggle that lit the room. Changing diapers again at 30, but joy doubled now, Tommy playing big brother, teaching her to ride her trike down the walk. The family grew full of laughter echoing off the walls, but undercurrents pulled strong. Jimmy's leg acted up in the damp weather, him limping more and popping aspirin like candy, while I pretended not to see the bottle hidden in the shed. Secrets like that fester quiet, but they shape you, molding resilience from the stream. We'd make it, though, picnics and prayers holding the line against the changing tides, 'cause in Millford we knew deep down that family was the anchor keeping us from drifting lost. As Tommy hit his teens, the world sped up faster than a hot rod on Route 66. He joined the baseball team, swinging that bat with power that turned heads, scouting college scholarships in his dreams. I'd pack lunches with notes tucked in, knock 'em dead slugger, watching from the bleachers as he rounded the bases, dust flying. Jimmy coached on weekends, his voice barking encouragement, a far cry from his haunted nights, now mostly tamed by time and talk. Sarah skipped rope in the yard, her songs filling the air with innocence, while I tended the garden, pulling weeds and whispering thanks for the bounty. Life felt balanced, then a wheel turning steady, but oh honey, I should have known storms don't ask permission, they just roll in thunderous and true. The 60s turned into the 70s like pages in a well-worn book, honey flipping faster than you could say Jack Rabbit, and with them came the storms I'd only glimpsed in news clips before. Tommy was blossoming into a fine young man, 15, then 16, working weekends at the feed store, stacking sacks of corn with muscles bulging under his shirt and a smile that turned heads from the cheerleaders. We'd gather for family dinners, me spooning out meatloaf and mashed potatoes, Jimmy passing the gravy boat, Sarah giggling over her peas, while Tommy spun tales of school dances and drag races down by the quarry. But under that table talk, the air hummed with tension, Vietnam raging on TV screens, every evening body counts climbing like weeds after a rain. Jimmy'd switch it off grumbling. Enough of that nonsense, but his eyes betrayed the fear gnawing at him, memories of his own draft days rising like ghosts. I tried to shield the kids, wrap them in the warmth of home, baked goods, and bedtime stories, but the draft lottery hit like a thunderclap in 69. Tommy's number coming up mid-range, not low enough to dodge, but high enough to give hope. Mama, don't fret, he said, squeezing my hand after the draw. I'll study hard, get into college, maybe defer it all. We nodded, praying over his applications to Ohio State, letters piling up on the hall table, but deep down, I felt the pull that war had on our boys, a siren's call of duty and glory mixed with mud and madness. Jimmy took to the garage, later nights wrenching on engines till his back screamed, trying to save for tuition fees that climbed steeper than Haskins Hill. Sarah sensed the worry, drawing pictures of families together under rainbows, pinning them to the fridge like talismans. Then the whisper started, subtle as autumn leaves rustling. Tommy, hanging with a crowd of older fellas, talking big about patriotism and stand up to communism, their eyes fierce over cans of Pabst at the riverbank. I'd catch him reading dog-eared copies of Stars and Stripes clippings from the library, his brow furrowed deep. One eminent 70, he sat me down at the kitchen table, his voice steady. Mama, I'm enlisting come summer. It's the right thing, the honorable path, like Dad and Uncle Ray did. My heart dropped like a stone in the well, tears springing hot. Tommy, honey, you got options, college, a future. Why throw it away for some politician's war? But he was set jaw firm as oak. I can't sit idle while fellas my age are dying over there. It's un-American. Jimmy overheard from the hall, his face going ashen, but he just nodded slow. If that's your call, son, I'll back you, though. Later that night, I heard him weeping in the shed, hammering nails into nothing. A bus station goodbye in June 71 tore me ragged Tommy in his new fatigues, duffel slung high, kissing Sarah's cheek and hugging Jimmy quick before turning to me. Right often, Mama send that cornbread recipe I love, he joked, but his eyes held a shadow I couldn't shake. I pressed the family photo into his hand, the one from last Christmas, all smiles and tinsel. Come back to us whole, darling. I whispered, waving till the bus vanished in dust, my arms aching empty. Letters flowed at first full of bravado, basics a breeze, Mama, the drill sergeants all bark. Then shipping out to Nam, the jungle's thick, but the guys are solid like brothers. We'd send packages, cookies, and tin socks darn tight, a silver cross necklace from church for protection. Jimmy added a note, proud of you, son, keep your head down. Months blurred into worry knots and my gut tighter each day. No mail meant ambush or worse, the radio blaring Tet offensive horrors and my lie massacres that made Jimmy smash his coffee mug. Sarah started school quiet, drawing peace signs on her notebooks while I'd bake pies for the bake sale funds going to anti-war groups hoping to end it quick. Then Tommy's tone shifted lighter, shorter edge with doubt. It's hotter than hell here, Mama, the rain never stops, and the fear it's always there. One came in early 72, postmarked Saigon, talking of R&R leave, and a local girl he met at a market, her name Land, dark hair, and a laugh that cut through the chaos. She shows me the real Vietnam, Mama, not the enemy, just folks trying to live. He wrote, and my heart swelled, then sank, knowing such sparks in wartime rarely kindle without burning out. I kept that letter private, a secret tucked in my Bible, not wanting to burden Jimmy with more dreams deferred. Summer 72 dragged sticky and slow fireflies dancing, mocking my vigil till that July morning the knock shattered the quiet. Uniforms at the door, words like bullets, killed in action, regret to inform. And I crumpled telegrams slipping to the floor, wailing a primal howl that echoed through the house. Jimmy found me there, pulling me up his face, carved hollow. Not our boy, God, no. And we clung, rocking on the linoleum tears, soaking our shirts till the well ran dry. The town swirled around us, casseroles stacking on the counter, Reverend praying at the empty casket, gold star in the window, gleaming sad, but the inside world collapsed black and silent. I'd wander the rooms, touching Tommy's jacket hung on the hook, his baseball glove stiff with disuse, seeing his face in every shadow. Jimmy changed overnight, the bottle calling louder, his shifts at the garage slipping as he nursed hangovers in the break room. Gotta forget Ellie just for a bit. He'd mutter coming home, reeking of whiskey and regret, but I'd nod forging ahead for Sarah, who cried herself to sleep, asking, why'd Tommy have to go, Mama? Secrets festered too, that letter from Tommy about land burning in my drawer, a forbidden love across lines of war and race, something the folks back home would have clucked over. I wondered what if he'd lived, brought her here, built a life defying the hate, but fate stole that chance, leaving me with what if sharper than thorns. Nights I'd sit on the porch, swing creaking alone, staring at the stars, praying Tommy found peace up there away from the jungles that claimed him. The funeral was a blur of honey black dresses and somber hymns, the chapel packed with Millford mourning our golden boy, flag-draped coffin empty as my arms. Reverend spoke of sacrifice and heaven's gain, but his words washed over me numb till they folded that flag tri-cornered into Jimmy's shaking hands. That's when I broke again, sobbing into Sarah's hair. He was too young, too good for this madness, the congregation joining in a wave of sniffles and prayers. Back home, the ladies descended with their needles and threads, starting the memory quilt squares of Tommy's old t-shirts, baseball jersey, and that letter I'd shared cautious-like about land. He loved deep Ellie, even in hell. Old Mrs. Hargrove said her own son lost in 68. Her stitches steady as she pieced the heart from the fabric. We sat round the table till midnight, tears falling on the cloth, but laughter creeping into stories of Tommy's pranks, his crooked smile mending the raw edges. Jimmy watched from the corner softening as he added a patch from his work shirt. For the boy who made us proud, and in that circle of women showering scars, I felt the first thread of healing, pull-tight resilience rising from the wreckage like dawn after a long night. Vietnam took our son, but it couldn't take our spirit, not when we wove it back together stitch by stitch. American grit holding the seams. The pain lingered, though, a fog that colored everything after. Jimmy dove deeper into the bottle, losing days at work, the foreman warning him, gentle shape up, Harlan, or you're out. But grief don't listen to reason. Sarah withdrew her giggles, fading into books and silence grades, slipping as she skipped classes to wander the fields where Tommy used to play. I'd find her there, sitting by the creek, tossing pebbles. Miss him, Mama, the way he'd push me on the swing high as the clouds. I'd hold her close, whispering, he's watching over us, honey, smiling still. But inside, I battled my own demons, cooking meals no one ate, staring at the ceiling, counting cracks like sins. Money tightened too. Tommy's college fund untouched now, a mocking pile. We'd saved penny by penny, Jimmy's overtime gone with his focus. I took in sewing mending neighbors' curtains and hems, fingers bleeding from the needle, but pride keeping me going. Then the oil crisis hit in '73 like a sucker punch, gas prices skyrocketing, lines at the pumps, stretching blocks long, Milford's mill laying off shifts as orders dried up. Jimmy got the pink slip on Friday, coming home pale as ash. They said, economic downturn. Ellie ain't personal, but it felt like a knife twisting our savings, evaporating on bills and groceries. We sold the Plymouth, traded it for a beat-up truck that coughed like a smoker, but it got us to the store where shelves emptied, fast folks hoarding like the end times. Beans again, mama? Sarah'd ask, pushing food around her plate, but I'd smile, fills the belly, darling, and we're luckier than most. Secrets multiplied, Jimmy hiding his job hunts from me, shame weighing heavy while I pocketed mending cash in a jar, dreaming of better days. Nights we'd lie awake listening to the coyotes howl, Jimmy's breath ragged with unspoken fears. What if we lose the house, Ellie, what then? The recession deepened into the late '70s. Inflation beat in like frost every purchase, a battle at the checkout. Jimmy bounced jobs, gas station attendant, then farmhand, his leg aching worse in the cold, but he'd grit through dawn and early to plow fields for pennies. Sarah graduated high school in '83, quiet ceremony, no cap toss for her dreams, dimmed by the loss she waitressed at the diner, pouring coffee for truckers, her tips buying us extras like fresh milk. I'd volunteer at the food bank, sorting cans and stories of families, stretched thin, harken back to war rationing, but this enemy was invisible, cruel in its slow grind. One evening, Jimmy came home late, mud-caked and quiet, slipping into the bathroom to wash up. I caught a whiff of perfume, not mine, faint, but damning Betty from the old mill, a widow herself with loose curls and sad eyes. My stomach nodded, but I swallowed it down, another secret to bury for the sake of peace, thinking maybe it was nothing, just comfort in the dark. But it gnawed at me, honey, that suspicion festering like an untended wound. I see him linger after shifts or hear the phone ring late with hushed tones, pretending to sleep when he'd slip out for a walk. Sarah noticed too, her eyes sharp. Daddy's acting funny, mama, but I shush her. Grown folks got worries. Kiddo, focus on your studies. Money woes peaked in '81, the big recession under Reagan promising trickle down, but for us it was drips from a leaky faucet. The bank letter came certified mail foreclosure, threatened if we missed another payment, Jimmy crumpling it in his fist. I'll fix this, Ellie, find something steady. But his eyes darted guilty. That's when I followed him one rainy Tuesday after his shift at the feed warehouse, parking the truck down the block from Betty's trailer, seeing him knock softer door opening to pull him in arms around his neck. Heart hammering, I drove home, tears blinding the wipers, slapping furious. Confrontation brewed that night, rain pounding the roof like judgment, Jimmy shuffling in late, wet and weary. Long day, darling? He lied, but I stood firm, hands on hips. Who is she, Jimmy? Betty. How long? His face drained, bloodless, stumbling back. Ellie. It was nothing, just talk loneliness after Tommy, but I pressed fierce, pulling the bank letter from my apron. Nothing? While we're losing the home you built with her? Spill it all, or we're done. He sank to a chair, head in hand, sobbing jagged. Since '79, Ellie, the bottle led to her place, comfort without the pain pills or dreams, just quiet. Shame on me for betraying you, our family. The kitchen filled with our cries, Sarah peeking from her room, eyes wide, but I held the line. We fought wars, lost our boys, scraped through this. Recession, you owe us truth and fighting back. He nodded, broken vow and sobriety, finding counseling at the VA for his old wounds. And in that raw hour amid the economic storm, we chose rebuilding love, tougher than the hardest times, American perseverance, pulling us from the brink, one promise at a time. Life didn't magic fix overnight, honey, but cracks started mending slow as dawn creeping over the fields. Jimmy joined AA meetings down at the church basement, sharing his Vietnam ghosts. No career for him, but the bottle bridged the pains with other vets nodding solemn. He'd come home, clearer-eyed, talking open about the leg ache, the nightmares, living the hidden bottle in the trash for good. I forgave cautious, stitching our marriage back like that quilt, for Tommy each thread a choice to let go. Sarah bloomed again, enrolling in community college, part-time studying, nursing her way of healing others. What we couldn't for Tommy. Money stayed tight though, 82, seeing unemployment lines, snake through town factories, shuttering as cars rusted in driveways, but we bartered eggs from the hens for potatoes, neighbors, trading skills like old times. I took more sewing commissions, mending prom dresses for the high school girls, their giggles filling the house with youth lost to us too soon. Jimmy landed steady work at the auto parts store, stocking shelves and fixing flats, his limp less pronounced with the weight lifted. Summers we picnic lean but joyful by the river, Sarah skipping stones. Tommy's absence a quiet ache, but his stories living on in our laughs. Secrets surface gentle now, no more hiding, Jimmy confessing smaller slips, but owning them, quick building trust brick by brick. The recession eased by 84, Reagan's boom trickling down at last jobs opening and wages creeping up. We paid the back mortgage squeaking by on overtime and prayers. Christmas that year felt like victory tree twinkling with lights. We'd strung ourselves, Sarah's first semester report gleaming on the mantle, Jimmy carving the ham, his hands steady to new beginnings family. He toasted eyes, meeting mine warm. Yet trials lingered, testing our mended seams. Sarah fell for a boy in 85, local fella named Mike Goodhearted, but restless talking of leaving Millford for the city lights. Mama, I need more than this town, she'd say, packing her bag for Cleveland nursing school, and I hugged her tight. Go chase your dreams, honey, but no, home's always here, roots run deep. Jimmy grumbled, missing her chatter, but proud too. She's got Tommy's fire, Ellie our legacy. Alone more, we rediscovered each other, walks at dusk hand in hand, talking dreams deferred and hopes rekindled. The farm next door went up for sale cheap. We scraped to buy a patch, planting corn and tomatoes, watching green shoots push through soil, a metaphor for us rising resilient. Betty faded to memory. Jimmy sending her a kind note, ways and ties clean, no grudges, just forward. Into the late 80s, the world shifted again. Berlin Wall tumbling on the news, a symbol of walls coming down in our lives too. Jimmy retired early, leg given out, but pension and my Seawan kept the roof over us. Sarah married Mike in 87, simple wedding in the chapel. Her in white glowing like I'd dreamed for myself years back. Grandkids came first, Lily in 88, chubby cheek with Sarah's curls, then Ben 2 years later, all energy and questions. Holding Lily that first time melted the last frost in my heart, Tommy's echo and her coos. Life goes on, Ellie, full circle. Jimmy whispered, tears in his eyes. We drove up for visits, the old truck rumbling to Cleveland barbecues and storytelling, passing on Milford lore to the little ones. But oh, honey, just when the sun shone, steady fate threw another curve. Jimmy's health faltered in 90, a cough that wouldn't quit, doc saying emphysema from years of smoke and stress. Quit the cigs, darling, years ago, but damage done. He shrugged, but I fussed chicken soup and doctor runs, keeping him fighting. Sarah word calling weekly, bring him up here, mama, better hospitals. But he waved it off, gonna stick to my soil, Ellie, where I belong. Secrets, one last one, he confessed in the hospital waiting room after a scare, the pills he'd hidden again briefly in despair. Forgive me again, wife, I'm weak, but learning. I squeezed his hand. We've weathered worse love stronger for the storms. Through treatments and remissions, he rallied volunteering at the VA, showering wisdom with young vets home from the Gulf War. His stories bridging generations. The call came sharp in 92, Jimmy wheezing, bad ambulance lights flashing down Elm Street as I rode beside him, oxygen mask fogging his face. Hold on, darling, you old coot, I murmured, hand in his, the hospital sterile and cold doctors poking lungs scarred from decades of demons. Sarah flew down with the kids, Lily clinging to my skirt. Grandpa gonna be okay. And Ben building forts from magazines in the waiting room. That's when we found it in Jimmy's wallet. Tommy's last letter creased and faded, speaking of doubts. Dad, if I don't make it, don't let the hurt break. You love mama fierce for me. Jimmy read it, hoarse voice cracking. I failed him. Ellie hiding my pains, letting the bottle win sometimes. We wept together, family huddled close, Sarah forgiving old tensions, Mike offering quiet support, and in that room, amid beeps and tubes, truth healed deeper than medicine. Jimmy pulled through lungs clearing with rest and resolve discharged to home, where grandkids' hugs fueled his fight. For them, Ellie, the next generation strong as oak. It mirrored the country's shift, post-Cold War walls falling, and hopes rising our family, emerging tougher, bonded in the breaking and mending. The 90s rolled gentle after that, honey, a softer chapter with grandkids filling the empty spots. Lily and Ben visited summers running wild in the yard, chasing chickens and learning to bait hooks, their laughter echoing Tommy's ghost-friendly now, not haunting. Jimmy took to whittling on the porch, carving little soldiers and angels, giving them to the young ones. Keep these close for luck, he'd say, eyes twinkling. Sarah's career bloomed nursing at a clinic, helping vets like her pa, and I'd beam proud. You turned pain to purpose, girl. Money steady with Social Security and garden sales, jars of pickles fetching quarters at the market. We'd watch the news, Gulf War winding down Clinton, taking office promising prosperity, and though Milford stayed small, the world felt bigger connected by letters and calls. Yet resilience ain't without echoes, old hurts flattering now and then. Jimmy's cough returned mild, but reminding us of fragility. Sarah's marriage straining under city stresses. Mike's job losing steam. Come home if you need to. I tell her on the phone, roots always welcome. Secrets, Few left, all aired like laundry on the line, honesty, our new habit. Into the new millennium, the house creaked older like us, but full of memories, photos, linen the walls. Tommy in fatigue, Sarah's wedding, Jimmy and me on our anniversary, grins wide. Grandkids grew, Lily off to college, Ben joining the scouts, and we'd gather Thanksgiving's table, groaning with turkey and tails, spilling over like gravy. So through it all, the struggle shaped us, honey, forged in fire, war, loss, and womp, but emerging hopeful. The American dream, not perfect, but pursuable with grit and grace. Tommy's gone, but his spirit lingers in every laugh, every hug, teaching that even in the darkest valleys, light breaks through if you keep walking forward hand in hand. The new century dawned soft on us, honey, like a quilt, pulled up gentle against the chill of getting on in years. It was the early 2000s, and Millford had changed some paved roads, snaking through the fields, and a Walmart sprouting on the edge of town, but our little house on Elm Street stood firm, creaking with memories, and the scent of my rose bushes blooming defiant. Jimmy and I had weathered the worst, the wars, the losses, the lean times, and though our bones ached and our steps slowed, we found a rhythm again, a quiet harmony pieced from forgiveness, and the simple grace of days adding up. Sarah and Mike stuck it out in Cleveland, her nursing steady, his job shifting to a factory up there, but they made the drive regular Thanksgivings and birthdays, the truck loaded with pies and grandkid hugs. Lily was off at college, Ohio University, studying history, her letters full of big ideas about the world, changing fast with computers and 9/11 fresh on her mind, while Ben joined the Army Reserves, his pa's influence, pulling him towards service, but wiser now, no foolish rushes. Jimmy's health held steady enough, the emphysema keeping him close to home, but he filled the hours with purpose, whittling on the porch, his knife dancing over pine to shape little keepsakes, angels for the church fair and toy trucks for neighborhood young'uns. Keeps my hands busy, Ellie, and my mind from wandering, he'd say, setting the shavings free to the breeze, his eyes clearer than they'd been in decades. I tended the garden, knees padded, with an old cushion planting tomatoes, and zinnias talking to him like old friends grow strong now like we did through the storms. Mornings we'd sip coffee on the swing, him adding sugar just so watching the sun gild the river and sharing whispers about nothing and everything. No secrets left between us, just the comfort of knowing we'd chosen each other every dang day. The town leaned on us too, Jimmy volunteering at the VA Center, sharing stories with golf bets home from the sandstorms, his voice steady. Hang in there, boys, the hurt fades if you let kin help carry it. And I'd bake for their meetings apple crisps and pecan bars, warming the room like a hug. But resolution ain't a straight path, honey. It's a meandering river with bends that surprise you. In 2003, Ben shipped out for a tour in Iraq, his duffel echoing Tommy's from all those years back, and my heart clenched tight, as Sarah's did too. Grandma, pray for me, he said at the send-off, hugging fierce, his uniform crisp, and his grin cocky to hide the fear. We waved from the porch, tears streaming, Jimmy's hand squeezing mine. He'll come home, Ellie, our blood's tough, but nights I lay awake praying to the same God who tested us before, wondering if the cycle of war would never break. Letters came regular, Ben scrawled, telling of heat and patrols. The locals ain't all bad, Grandma. Some remind me of your stories about folks pulling together. Sarah called daily, her voice wavering. What if history repeats, Mama? And I'd soothe, it bends, but don't break us. We hold the line with love. The call came in '04, Ben wounded, not bad, a shrapnel graze. In the leg, airlifted home quick, and whole his eyes wiser, but spark intact. We drove to the base, tears and thanks flowing as he limped into our arms. Missed your cooking, Grandma, that MRE slop ain't fit for hogs. Jimmy clapped his shoulder, gentle, proud of you, son, but proud of your back. And in that reunion, the old wounds eased, Tommy's shadow lifting a bit as Ben shared his tales over cornbread, the family circle widening to heal the gaps. Lily graduated that spring, history degree in hand, moving to D.C. for a museum job, her passion for stories mirroring mine. Gonna tell the real tales, Grandma, the ones about everyday heroes like you and Gramps. We beamed at her wedding 2 years later to a teacher named Tom, simple vows under the oaks back in Millford, her gown flowing like Mama's once was. Forgiveness wove deeper than honey, not just between Jimmy and me, but reaching out to the past. In 2005, on the anniversary of Tommy's passing, I finally wrote to Land, the girl from his letters, tracking her through a veterans group, her now a teacher in California, widowed young but strong. Your Tommy spoke of you fond, Ellie, a light in his dark. She replied, her words crossing oceans and years. He loved deep, may peace find you. We corresponded slow stamps and stories, her showering photos of grandkids with his eyes, and I send in quilt squares from our circle, a bridge over the war that stole him. Jimmy read the letters soft. Wish he'd brought her home. Ellie made our family bigger, and we cried together, not bitter, but grateful for the love that lingered. Sarah found her own peace, too confident over tea about the strains with Mike work and worries pilling, but counseling, helping them mend like we had. You showed us how, Mama, forgiveness ain't forgetting, it's choosing forward, she said, and I hugged her close. That's the American way, darling, rebuilding from the ruins. Community pulled us tighter, too. The quilting circle evolves into a support group for vets' families. Meetings at the church with coffee and cries turn into cheers. Mrs. Hargrove passed in '06, her quilt legacy living on in raffles for scholarships, one named for Tommy sending local kids to college. Jimmy spoke at the dedication voice gravelly. Loss don't define us, but how we rise does. The crowd nodding, gold stars still in windows, but stories now of triumphs too. I took up writing memoirs, jotting tales on yellow pads for the grandkids, so you know where you come from, the grit that got us here. Lily edited them into a little book self-published for Christmas, her museum friends praising the honest heart in every line. The big turn came in 2008, the recession hitting hard again, banks failing and jobs vanishing like they had in our youth. Sarah and Mike lost the house foreclosure, stealing their nest egg, and with 2 teens of their own, they packed up, heading back to Millford, defeated but determined. We need roots. Mama, a fresh start. Sarah said, unloading boxes in our spare room, the house bursting with noise again, kids running wild like Tommy once did. Jimmy grumbled good-natured about the chaos, but his eyes lit up fixing toys and sharing war yarns with the great-grandkids, Lily's boy, little Jack, all curiosity and curls. Money stretched thin once more, us pooling pensions and suing commissions, but we bartered again, eggs for milk garden, veggies for gas neighbors, rallying like in the oil crisis days. History rhymes, don't it? Jimmy chuckled over soup one evening, but we faced it united, no hiding, no shame, just hands linked across the table. That potluck in summer '09 turned the tide, honey, the whole town gathering on the green under strung lights, tables groaning with casseroles and cobblers, folks sharing woes from the crash, but eyes bright with hope. Jimmy took the mic, shaky but sure, unburdening his soul. I carried secrets, folks. Guilt over Tommy's war, my own slips in the dark, but tonight I let him go for my family from Millford. He read Tommy's letter aloud, the one about land, and doubt voice cracking on the tender parts. The crowd hushed, then sobbing open applause, thundering as hugs flowed free. Sarah stood with Mike kids at their sides. We're rebuilding here together like Gramps says, and I watched tears stream in the circle, complete forgiveness, not just words, but action light breaking through the clouds. Ben added his Iraq patch to the quilt. For the future, no more hiding. And in that moment, amid the recession's grip, America shone resilient families like ours, peace and hope from hardship stronger than before. Life bloomed fuller after that, honey. The house a hub of comings and goings. Sarah found work at the clinic. Mike fixed cars from the garage, sharing space with Jimmy's tools. Their laughter echoing like old times. Lily visited often, her family growing another babe on the way, stories from D.C. mixing with our small-town tales over pie. Ben settled nearby, marrying a local girl, starting a security firm, his limp a badge, not a burden. Jimmy and I celebrated 50 years in 2010, simple vow renewal at the chapel, the kids and grandkids witnessing rings exchanged again. Through every storm, darling, he whispered, and I nodded, and the sun rises too. Health waned slow, his breath shorter, my eyes fading, but doctors kept us going with pills and checkups, joy in the little things, a walk to the river or cards with the great-grandkids. Into the teens, the world spun faster, smartphones buzzing and news of pandemics, but we held steady porch swing, still swaying, stories flowing endless. I shared my memoirs at the library, folks nodding. Ellie's tales remind us we're all connected through the hurts and healings. Jimmy passed gentle in 2015, 91 years, his hand in mine till the last love you, Ellie, see you soon. And though the whole gape-wide family filled it quick, Sarah moving in to tend me grandkids, rotating shifts, their love a bomb. I turned 83 that year, feeling the weight, but grateful the resolutions we chased now lived in them. The cycle turning hopeful. Through it all, honey, the tragedies and secrets built us, not broke us. Resilience, the thread running true from World War II fields to recession tables, forgiveness, the glue holding family tight. Life's a story worth telling, peaks and valleys, but always rising like the Ohio sun. Sitting here now, honey, with the evening chill settling on my old bones and the fireflies dancing lazy in the yard, I look back over these 83 years like pages in a cherished album, some faded, some vivid as yesterday. Milford, Ohio, our little patch of heaven with its cornfields, whispering secrets to the wind, and the river running steady no matter the floods has been the backdrop to it all, a quiet witness to the heartaches and the healings that shaped this gal into who she is. Oh, I've seen storms fierce enough to uproot oaks, the kind that start with a rumble in the distance and hit full force, leaving you wondering if the sun will ever peek through again. Lonesome Tommy in that godforsaken jungle back in '72 ripped the world from under my feet, left me gasping on the kitchen floor with Jimmy's arms, the only anchor keeping me from drowning in grief. But honey, even in that blackest hour, I learned the first big lesson: life's pains don't pick favorites. They come calling on us all, but it's how you rise from the mud that tells your true tale. And the money woes, honey, the recessions that squeezed us like a miserly fist, the 73 oil lines stretching longer than patience, Jimmy losing his job and us selling the Plymouth for beans and prayers, the 80s grind under Reagan's shiny talk with factory shuttering and Betty's perfume, a betrayal that cut deeper than any layoff notice. I followed him that rainy night, heart pounding, seeing the truth in her trailer door, but instead of shattering, I chose confrontation in our kitchen, tears flowing, but voice steady. We rebuild or we break, Jimmy, your call. He chose us sobriety and VA talks, pulling the bottle from his grip. And in that choice, I saw the real America, not the billboards, but the everyday grit folks, scraping by on dignity and determination. The 2008 crash echoed at old Sarah and Mike losing their home packing back to Elm Street with the grandkids and told the house bursting at the seams, but alive with laughter again. We bartered and prayed just like the old days, potlucks turning strangers to kin, reminding me hardship ain't the end. It's the forge making us tougher, warmer to the touch. Think on it now, the wars that bookended my days, World War II, baby, as I was with Daddy's mill lights burning all night and Mama's victory garden fighting the ration blues. Uncle Ray gone to Normandy, living a hole that echoed through our house, taught me early that bravery ain't just for the fellas in foxholes. It's in the women holding the home front, stitching quilts from scraps and praying over telegrams too scared to open. Then Korea chewing at Jimmy's heels, shrapnel in his leg, and shadows in his dreams he hid like buried treasure till that stormy night he spilled it all sobbing in my arms. I held him fierce, whispering, we face it together, darling, and in that promise I found my own strength, the kind that don't bend easy. Vietnam, though, that was the cruelest thief, snatching our boy full of fire and foolish dreams. His letters about land, that sweet girl in Saigon, a secret love that could have bloomed if not for the bullets and the borders. Reading his words after the fact, Mama keep loving hard through the hurt. It broke me fresh, but mended something too showing love crosses even the graves we dig too soon. Secrets were the thorns, honey, pricking unexpected and drawing blood. Jimmy's pills tucked in the shed is a fair born of lonely nights. My silence on Tommy's letter about that forbidden spark in the war zone. Each one unearthed felt like ripping a bandage raw and stinging, but oh, the freedom after the airing out. Written to land after all those years, her words coming back gentle, Tommy's light lives in your strength. Ellie bridged the miles and the morning turned guilt to gratitude. Jimmy's last confession in the hospital, that faded letter from our boy tucked in his wallet. Don't let the hurt break you, Dad. It washed the remnants clean, leaving us huddled with Sarah and the kids' forgiveness flowing like the river after rain. I reckon that's the heart of resilience, honey. Not never falling, but getting up, dusting off, and reaching for the hand beside you. Family's the thread weaving through it all. Tommy's echo and Ben's steady step. Sarah's healer's touch. Lily's stories keeping the past alive for the little ones. Look at the grandkids now. Lily's babes running wild in the yard chasing fireflies like I did at their age, asking great-grandma, tell us about the big wars again. Their eyes wide as saucers. I spin the yarn, softening the edges, the losses to lessons, the secrets to wisdom, because that's what elders do, pass the torch without the burn. Ben's security business thrives, protecting folks in a world still full of shadows, but he comes home, regular showering coffee and cautions, learn from you all. Don't hide the hurts, talk them out. Sarah's clinic bustles helping vets and mamas alike, her smile brighter for the men she's seen. Jimmy's gone 5 years now, but his whittled angels grace every shelf, his voice in the wind. Keep going, Ellie, the sun rises faithful, alone. Now, honey, surrounded by the love we built brick by stubborn brick through every trial. This nation's spirit mirrors it. Don't you think, honey, from Pearl Harbor pulling us together to the moon, landing, cheering us on through the walls, tumbling in Berlin, and the recoveries after crashes that test the soul. We're a land of dreamers, endure scarred, but standing tall, cause deep down we know unity's our superpower, families, communities holding the line against the winds. My life's no epic poem, no Siri, just a simple song of surviving and smiling again, teaching me hope ain't wishful. It's working the soil, planting seeds, even when the frost bites. Secrets fade, tragedies scar, but resilience? That's the bloom eternal. Now as I rock on this porch, swing creaking like an old friend, the stars winking overhead, I got one last nudge for y'all. Share this story with your kin, your friends, anyone needing a reminder that hearts mend and lives go on fuller for the showering. Hit that like button if it touched you, subscribe for more tales from the heart, and comment below your own grandma's wisdom. We all learn from each other. Life's too precious not to pass the light, honey. Keep it burning bright for the ones coming after.